Hey, this is going to be a video response to SandersRobin24 and his video about his top 20 pro wrestling dream matches. Matches of guys who've never faced each other, guys who are still active and you can only use each guy once. So let's get straight into it, shall we? My first match was CM Punk versus Kevin Steen. This one's blatantly obvious to everyone, isn't it? They are so good on the mic, and imagine the stuff building up to a match that they could do, and imagine the hype they could create within the wrestling community. Like, oh my god, these two guys are finally going to face each other. Kevin Steen versus CM Punk. It also happens as a happy coincidence that at this moment in time, Punk's a WWE champ, Steen's the ROH champ. Now, I don't think these two have ever faced each other. In fact, I've never seen a match between each other. I googled it just in case and nothing came up. Well, apart from some eFed that was just a computer game. So, yeah. I'll state at this point, my indie wrestling knowledge only goes back to like 2008, 2009, I think 2009. When the time when Bryan Danielson signed to WWE, that's when I went back and researched, because everyone had told me he was the best in the world, so I wanted to know what he looked like and what the way he wrestled more like. So yeah, Steen versus Punk, the stuff they could do on the mic building up to it would be really good. Also, the one thing I'm not too sure about is how their styles would mesh in the ring. Kevin Steen, he reminds me of like a modern day Mick Foley, the way he abuses his body so much. He doesn't have that bodybuilder look. He's a bit on the tubbier side, but he's a fantastic worker still nonetheless. Secondly, Kurt Angle versus Dolph Ziggler. The way these two guys have that amateur background, the way that Dolph Ziggler sells, the way that Kurt Angle's such a machine, I think these two could have a really awesome match, and I don't think they've ever faced off against each other. Maybe when Dolph Ziggler was in the Spirit Squad, they came across each other maybe then. I don't think so though. Number 3, Undertaker versus Sting. This is one that everyone says would be like a dream WrestleMania match. Undertaker versus Sting, the icon versus icon. Both the gimmicks are the dark sort of gothic type. You know, everyone already knows all about this. I don't really have to explain, do I? Next up, Daniel Bryan versus Rob Van Dam. A lot of people have soured on Rob Van Dam over the years, saying he relies too much on sports and his acrobatics and all that, and he doesn't really have good psychology and he doesn't really sell that well. I personally think that RVD and Daniel Bryan, if they had a match against each other, I think they'd complement each other really, really well, and they could come up with something to just be just as good as the stuff that RVD was doing with Jerry Lynn at the end of his ECW. Well, was it the end of his ECW? Around, was it 99, 2000, that era, ECW. Not the WWE one, obviously. Next up, AJ Styles versus Davey Richards. Now, I think these two guys, again, they could really complement each other in the ring. Like, both have sort of a, well, Davey Richards has more of like a hard hitting style, and whereas AJ Styles has more of a aerial style. But again, I think Davey can do the aerial stuff as well. So I think the way the chemistry they'd have in the ring would be really good, I believe. Next up, El Generico versus Jeff Hardy. Now this is one that I just came up like with, and I don't really know why. I just think that they could tell a good story in the ring and they could put on a really good match. Again, I don't really know why. It's just one that I thought, you know what, that might be good. Next up, Abyss versus John Cena. Now, this is from pure storytelling standpoint. Imagine this. Abyss comes to WWE. This is when Cena's in the midst of his Super Cena gimmick. Now, Abyss destroys everyone. He destroys absolutely, well, not absolutely everyone, but he destroys so many faces on the Raw roster. And it's up to Cena to save the day. And Cena goes against him in like a false count anywhere match, or like a Extreme Rules type of deal. No holds barred. And he throws him in the thumbtacks and he breaks glass all over him and he just absolutely destroys the Monster Abyss, and Super Cena comes out victorious. Imagine how over that would be with the children fans that Cena's finally beaten this Monster Abyss. I think that would be a great story to tell for the children. And just for pro wrestling in general, to be honest, like I don't want to really downgrade it, say it's just for kids, because I enjoy some of Cena's stuff as well. Next up, Bobby Roode versus Triple H. The comparisons, everyone's already compared them, just like the Undertaker Sting thing, but to a lesser extent. But yeah, Triple H, Bobby Roode, we don't really need to say too much about that one, do we? Bobby Roode's just like a younger Triple H, isn't he? Next up, I have Chris Jericho versus Kenta. Now, I'll stop myself here and I'll just say that I don't know an awful lot about Japanese wrestling, or puro or whatever you guys call it. I just call it Japanese wrestling, to be honest. I've probably seen about 10-15 Kenta matches, but what I have seen of Kenta, I've really been impressed by him, and to me he's probably my second favourite guy in Noah. Now, I don't actually know if he's in Noah or not, but I've always seen him on Noah and Wrestle Kingdom. I've not seen him anywhere else, so that's just where I assume that's his company. So yeah, Chris Jericho versus Kenta, I think they could have a really good match against each other. I don't know. Again, this is another one where I just think their styles could really mesh well against each other. And Jericho can have a great match with anyone in the world, I believe. A good matchup with anyone in the world. Next up, Marufuji versus Rey Mysterio. Naomichi Marufuji. Now, to me, like, he's my favourite guy in Noah or New Japan. I don't know which of the two he's from. I saw him on Wrestle Kingdom last, and I think where I'd seen him from before was Noah, because I've mostly only seen Noah stuff, apart from the Wrestle Kingdom and a few New Japan stuff lately. But yeah, Marufuji, Rey Mysterio. Again, I think these two guys could have a really good match against each other. Marufuji has just, I can't really describe his style. I don't know enough about Japanese wrestling to label it whatever it's supposed to be. But yeah, I really appreciate his style of pro wrestling, and I think Rey Mysterio against him would be a really good match. While I was thinking of Rey Mysterio, I thought Sin Cara versus Dragon Kid. Now that would be a really good match. These two guys going against each other. These high flyers. It might be a bit of a botch fest. Who cares? They're really fast paced guys. They both have very similar styles. The lucha influence and the small cruiserweight lucha influence is blatant to see in Dragon Kid, and I think again these two guys could have a really good match. Next up, Randy Orton versus Tomasso Ciampa. To me, I don't know if anyone else sees this, but I just see Tomasso Ciampa as the next Randy Orton for some reason. I just think he just has that similar look of like the skinhead and like the moderately well built. He's not like a proper musclehead, but like he's packed on, and like yeah, I think him and Orton could tell a good story. Who would be the heel? Would Tomasso Ciampa be the heel? Would they both go heel against each other? I don't know, but I just think it'd be alright. Next, Masato Yoshino versus Eddie Edwards. Now, for some reason when I was reading that, I thought I'd put Eddie Kingston. I was thinking, why have I put Eddie Kingston versus Masato Yoshino? But yeah, Masato Yoshino is someone who I personally believe is the fastest wrestler in the world. I've not seen any pro wrestler go as fast as Masato Yoshino has. I am a really big fan of his. To me, I don't know, I can't really take him seriously as a wrestler because he's just so small and scrawny that I can only really take him seriously against smaller guys. That's just the way I've been trained by watching WWE all these years. I don't know. But yeah, I put him against Eddie Edwards. I thought these two guys could have a good match against each other. Eddie Edwards was just one of the American guys who I thought was small, could do that sort of style. I also thought Evan Bourne could go in here, but I thought, no, I'll save Evan Bourne for Naruki Doi. Naruki Doi is another one of the Dragon Gate guys. Now, I always confuse a lot of the Dragon Gate guys. Naruki Doi and who's the other one that I always confuse between the two? Shima and Naruki Doi. I always confuse the two, so I may be thinking of the wrong guy, but no, I think I know which one it is when I'm speaking about him. But basically, these two guys. Again, Evan Bourne's got the speed, and Naruki Doi's got the speed. The styles are not the same, but I think they could. Like Evan Bourne obviously worked in Dragon Gate Japan, didn't he, for a short while when he was Matt Sydal in ROH. So they may have actually worked together before. I should have actually looked into this one, but yeah, I'd like to see that match. Next one of the first ones I thought of actually, Douglas Williams versus William Regal. This one's just an obvious one, isn't it? The two Brits. They may have fought each other in the past, maybe on like a dark match at a house show, like with Williams getting a trial or something. But yeah, I think these were just put on like that English style pro wrestling clinic where it'd be really like wrist locks and STFs and all that sort of real mat based stuff. Next up, Colt Cabana versus Santino Marella. Now, people might be switching off at this point, like, oh, what do you know about pro wrestling? Santino Marella's on your top 20 dream matches of all time. I got to tell you, I was running out of guys and I was running out of matches to put, especially because I don't know who's faced who on the indie scene and I don't know who's faced who in Japan, so I couldn't really do Japan versus Japan. I couldn't do indie versus indie, so I had to do a lot of crossover and stuff like that. But Cabana, Santino Marella and Eric Younger, these three guys are so funny, like the way they're in the ring. They're just light humour, and I had to put a match of just two of these guys in there, so I just chose Santino and Colt Cabana because it was just the first two I came up with. Eric Younger as well I thought of afterwards, but I thought, no, I've already wrote this, so I'll just keep that. But yeah, it would just be a bit of light comedic relief if we saw this on the show, but I think it would be like a really funny match. And again, they could both go into it as faces and like just both work the face down. It'd be really good. Next one, Kota Ibushi versus Tyson Kidd. Kota Ibushi is someone I've seen about 5 times on DDT shows on the latest Wrestle Kingdom. I believe he had a tag team match with Kenny Omega, am I right in saying that? And he was on an Evolve show, I believe. Yeah, Ibushi and Tyson Kidd, I think, would have a really good match. Again, two smaller guys, and I think it's lazy of me to say they've got similar styles, but I think they do have similar styles, and I think they would really work a really good match together. Next one, Kenny Omega versus Shima. Now, I wanted to put Kenny Omega in just because I really like him. I love the stuff he did with that blow-up doll, what's it called, Yoshihiko. I love showing. When I was at uni, I used to love showing that to my uni mates, saying, "Oh, look at this! This is so funny." And they enjoyed that stuff, and I enjoy Kenny Omega. He's a good wrestler. He doesn't take himself seriously enough, but him and Shima put on a good match. They may have faced each other before, but I don't know. I've not seen it, and I didn't know if they had or not. Next up, Rhett Titus versus BB Hulk. I put these two together because I thought BB Hulk's one of the more flamboyant guys on the Dragon Gate roster, or at least not the ones who I like and who I actually know the names of. A lot of them just all blur into one. But yeah, BB Hulk versus Rhett Titus, both flamboyant. They'll both do like moves, like post to the crowd, move post to the crowd, that sort of thing, and I think it'll be alright. And next one, I thought I wanted to put Rush against somebody. Rush is in the guy from CMLL. I know a lot of people don't actually follow Mexican wrestling. I don't understand why. For people who like indie wrestling and Japanese wrestling as well as American mainstream, that is, I don't understand why they don't watch Mexican wrestling. Maybe it's not as widely available, I don't know. But Rush is one of the guys who really stands out to me as one of the top performers in Mexico. Along with, to be fair, I've not watched anything for about 4 months from Mexico. But Rush is one of the guys who who just stands out to me, and I really do see something in him. And I think if it wasn't for like Alberto Del Rio, Rush could be like a main guy in the WWE. They could bring him in as this, like a Latino kind of Mexican kind of guy. Put any gimmick on him, and I think he could get over. I think he could go to TNA and do a decent job for them there. But TNA, I don't think they'd like to push someone who doesn't really have that much of a name value, and Rush really doesn't. In fact, I don't really hear anyone ever talk about him. I've put him against Mr. Anderson just because Mr. Anderson's another guy who's a heavyweight size, and I thought, let's just throw him in there, Mr. Anderson versus Rush, because I didn't really have anyone else to put Rush against. Maybe in hindsight I could have put him against like Alberto Del Rio or someone, but they've probably already faced each other. But yeah, that's my 20. For whoever's watching it, I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, let me know what you think down below. Yeah, let me know your dream matches down below for guys who've never faced each other, who you'd like to see face each other. And let me know your opinions. Give it a like or a dislike. Give it a subscribe if you're not subscribed and you want to see more videos. I appreciate everyone who subscribes. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again very, very soon, hopefully.